This video is an introduction to percentages, what they are and how they work. Percent means per hundred or for every 100. If you think of the word century, it means 100 years, and there are 100 cents in a dollar. So whenever we're talking about percent, we're talking about out of every 100. This blue block here has 100 individual little squares. And if we cover one of those squares, we've covered one square out of 100. To express this as a percent, we use this symbol here, and 1 per 100, 1 out of 100, is 1%. If we add another one, we now have 2 out of 100, and that's 2%. And if we kept adding one little square at a time, we'd be going up in 1%. If we fill a whole row, we've filled 10 out of 100, which is 10%. This one's worth remembering because what happens with 10% doesn't work with any of the other percentages. If you remember from the fractions section, in every fraction you have a denominator and a numerator, and with 10 out of 100, if you divide both the numerator and the denominator by 10, you have 1/10. 1/10 of 100 is 10%, because you filled 10 out of 100 rows, and 10 is 1/10 of 100. You'd need 10 of those rows to fill in the whole blue block. It's worth remembering that whenever you divide a number by 10, you've found 10%. And relating that to fractions, when you find 1/10 of something, you have found 10%. It makes life a lot easier if you can remember this. If I had 200 of those individual little blue squares, and I covered 2 of those individual blue squares, I have 2 out of 200. To express that as a percent, we have to turn the denominator into 100, which means we divide the numerator and the denominator by 2. And if you look on the blocks, 2 out of 200 is exactly the same as 1 out of 100. We have one yellow block for every 100 blue ones. So 2 out of 200 is the same as 1%. Here we have 300 individual little blue blocks. How many do you have for each 100? And how many percent do you have if you have 3 out of 300? Pause the video, have a go. If we spread these yellow ones out to see how many we have for each 100, you can see that we have 1 for every 100 blue squares. Looking at that fraction, 3 over 300, if we divide the numerator and the denominator by 3, we have 1 over 100, and 1 out of 100 is 1%. So 3 over 300 is the same as 1%. Here we filled in 2 whole rows, 2 rows of 10 out of 100. 20 out of 100, if you remember from fractions, if we divide both those numbers by the same thing, if we divide them both by 10, we have 2/10. If 1/10 is 10%, then 2/10 is 20%. 20 over 100, and if we divide both of those by 10, we have 2/10, and that's 20%. If we fill in 5 rows, how much percent do we have? And can you link that to what you know about fractions? Pause the video, have a go. We've covered 50 out of 100, and if we divide both of those by 10, that's 5/10. As a percentage, that's 50%, and you might also recognise that that's exactly the same as 1/2. Here we have 99 out of 100 blocks covered, so that's 99%. If we add one more block, We filled in the whole thing. We filled in all 100 of the 100 squares. That's 100%. One whole thing is 100%. If we have 30 out of 300, based on what you've already done, could you work out what that is as a percentage? Pause the video, have a go. 30 out of 100. Looking at the blocks, I could spread out each tenth and put 1/10 in each of the hundredths. Out of 300, I have 30. Out of 100, I have 10. And if you were going to do this just using the numbers, you would say, my denominator needs to be 100 to find the percent. If I divide 300 by 3, I get 100. So I need to divide the numerator, 30, by 3, and I get 10. 30 out of 100 is the same as 1/10, which is 10%. Here, I have 24 out of 100, which is 24%. What if I had 24 out of 200? Out of 200 I have 24. If I look at the blocks, how many have I got out of each 100? So if I just move the blocks, you can see that for each 100 I have 12. So that's 12%. Just looking at the numbers, you could say 24 out of 200, I need to change the denominator to 100, so I'm going to divide 200 by 2. Therefore, I'm going to divide 24 by 2, and that gives me 12%. Have a go at this one. How many percent do you have out of these 200 blocks? Pause the video, have a go. Out of 200, you have 86. We turn that denominator into 100. What do we have? If we move the blocks, you can see that we have 43 for each 100. Just working with the numbers, if I'm going to turn 200 into 100, I divide it by 2. Therefore, I need to divide the 86 numerator by 2 to give me 43 out of 100. That's 43%. Here's one final one for you to try. How many do you have out of 200? Then working with the numbers, how can you turn that into how many percent you have? Pause the video, have a go. You filled one whole 100 and then 48. So out of 200, you have 148. I need to make that denominator 100 to find the percent. If I divide 200 by 2, I get 100. So now I need to divide 148 by 2, which is 74. I have 74%.